When they said you have breast cancer, everything, it was like the time stopped. I felt like I left my body. Like these things happen to people I don't know.
When life gives us the hardest diagnosis, we are faced with two choices: to crumble under the weight of it all, or to rise and let it transform us. Today's guest, Veronika chose the second. In 2023, Veronika was diagnosed with breast cancer. Instead of surrendering to fear, she turned inward and upward, choosing an integrative healing path that wove together plant-based living, emotional trauma work, and energy healing, and also spiritual growth. That journey didn't just save her life, it awakened a brand new purpose. Now, a breast cancer coach, therapist, and the author of The Diary of a Soul Reborn, Veronika guides women through their own healing journeys, helping them not just survive, but truly thrive. She leads community healing circles, teaches holistic prevention, and shares tools that empower women to reclaim their health, their joy, and their future. Veronika, welcome to Positive Vibes.
Hello, everyone. Thank you very much for inviting me for this podcast. It is an honor to share my story with you all here today.
That's wonderful, Veronika. So, can you take us back to the moment you first received your diagnosis? What went through your mind and heart?
Yes, of course. So I think one thing I would like to point out that it all happened at a time when I was living the best life ever. I felt healthy as ever. I was very active, running 7 to 10K almost every day. I had a very promising career, so I was stepping up career ladder. I was just about to step into a new job, and so when the diagnosis came, it's completely shaken the
Mm.
everything I built so far. And I remember sitting because I first of all discovered the lump and didn't think much of it because I went through similar procedure, not
Mm.
procedure, but process 2 years before then when I found something that was at the end benign. So I knew they always fast track you as a suspect of cancer, even when it's not cancer. But within
Mm.
a space of 2 weeks, waiting for the appointment at the breast clinic, I discovered another heart lump size of a grape that
Oh,
grew
wow.
within these 2 weeks, and that was when I felt like this doesn't look right, but didn't want
Mm.
to admit anything, and still went to for the appointment, thinking it will be okay. I will just get it out of the way and can carry on with my life.
Mm.
And I had a mammogram, I had an ultrasound, and I remember sitting or laying in that room, which was very cold, and the radiologist saying, "Oh, I just put a little bit of gel and it will be cold." And I said, "Do whatever you like, just tell me good news." And this is what I said 3 times throughout the appointment, and he never replied a single
Mm.
thing. And looking back, he must have already known at that time that that it didn't look good. And then I was invited to book an appointment for next week. So I didn't actually expect to get to know anything until the week after, when the results of the biopsy come back. But they took me to a room that was very nicely decorated, pink
Mm.
cushions, offered me hot chocolate, and that's when you kind of know that this is the bad news room.
Mm.
And when they said you have breast cancer, everything, it was like the time stopped. I
Mm.
felt like I left my body. Like these things happen to people I don't know, and these things can't happen to me. It's almost like we hear about it. Like at that time, the only person I sort of knew was Kylie Minogue. that went through breast cancer. And of course, I don't know Kylie Minogue. So that's how far it felt. And suddenly it was part of me. So I think that moment was literally that I thought it was just a bad dream and I will wake up because this is not possible. And I just felt so confused. I remember because I went to see my friend just after the appointment, and he lives 15 minutes from the hospital. It took me 45 minutes to get there because I kept turning different ways. Although I had sat nav on, I just could not think straight. So I think that was the phase where everything fell apart, where something completely surreal happened. And it was a huge feeling of overwhelm and confusion.
I'm sure there's a lot of listeners out there that can resonate with you that have probably gone through a similar thing, and also other listeners out there that haven't been diagnosed but know that that is, as a woman, that is your biggest fear, that to receive that diagnosis. So you mentioned you were confused, you're in fear. What helped you shift from being in fear to seeing that your cancer journey could be a catalyst for transformation?
So I think it was on the same day of the diagnosis when I was leaving my friend. And suddenly, as I was reaching out for the handle in a car, I felt like it was almost like someone turned on a switch. And then suddenly, the time unfroze. And because I had the whole afternoon, my brain was almost like a computer processing billions of data at the same time, but not finding the result. And this was the moment where somehow that my mind found the result. And I turned around at my friend and I said, you know what? I am going to heal. I don't know how, but I will do everything it takes to get through this.
Mm.
And it was a moment probably where I switched to the survival mode, when you know you just on a mission and you have to do it. And because I did hear before about really disconnected stories of people who use juicing, who change diet. So by the time I got home, I had a little action plan in my head, and I knew I was going to buy a juicer. I was going to look at what I was eating, and because I was around spiritual and personal development since maybe age of 18, I knew this would be a big part of my journey. And also because I was newly graduated from something that's called the Silva method, which is essentially a method of controlling our own mind instead of the mind controlling us. So
Yeah.
I thought, well, I'll put this in practice now because this
Yeah.
is just an ideal time to do that. So I knew that the modalities and the tactics that I would dive into that resonated with me, and really saw it as being excited about changing my diet and actually doing something great for myself and to help my body to restore the
Yeah.
health.
That's
So it
amazing.
was a
Yeah.
mindset shift.
That's amazing, Veronica. By the time you got home, you already put a plan of action on how you can help your body heal the disease better. That's just amazing. But it sounds like you had a background of a lot of stuff there that you could pull through to your healing process. But was there a defining moment when you realized this is going to change my life? Not just, oh, this isn't going to just not only change my life, but my purpose.
Yeah, so I don't know if it was my coping mechanism,
Mm.
but very early on, because I always wanted to write a book, but I didn't know about what. I even made a try in lockdown, but didn't get as further than the first page. But this was for me like a calling because, and maybe that's also because I started to question my life purpose a couple of weeks before the diagnosis because I was on that I had a great career, but
Mhm.
I didn't feel it was the actual purpose. I always wanted to do something to contribute to this world, but didn't know how. So when I was diagnosed, I explained to myself that maybe this is the reason why I got the diagnosis, so that I can then help other women
Mm,
who are going through a similar journey. So I
mm,
was, from early on, I was just journaling everything I was trying out, everything I was feeling, everything I was doing, and that then formed a baseline for the book that I started writing after I
mm,
recovered.
That's truly amazing what you did there, Veronica. So you mentioned before about the holistic path. You went on integrating nutrition, trauma healing, energy work, and spirituality. What did each of these play in your healing?
I think they were a complex of things that work together.
Hmm.
And so when I changed my diet, I felt I'm doing it from the place of love, and I think that's one thing to mention, that whatever we decide to do, because with every person will have different things that will resonate with them. And
Mm,
sometimes as a breast cancer patient or any cancer patient, you can get into this panic, that when you read all the, especially the stories how people healed naturally, you get into a panic that, oh my god, I am doing chemotherapy, am I hurting myself, am I bringing some underlying issues in future, or am I actually doing the right thing? Should I opt out? And you get into this panic. Oh, if I eat this, will I, will my tumor growth, or will they come back? So I think that fear itself is very unhealthy, and I've been through that fear as well. And then I've read a book from I think he was a surgeon, and he said, I've seen people recovering from cancers in variety of ways, and
mm,
each journey was different, but it was always down to whatever the person believed the most.
mm,
And I think that's when I always say it is important to make changes from the place of love, because then you believe that that change will help you and you do it for yourself. But when
mm,
we do things from a fear, from the place of fear, we then also feel really guilty if we don't follow the rules, and we feel like we almost attracting the bad things on us.
mm.
So I think that's an important message to share. So although I did kind of all the right thing, if you like, changing the diet, doing
Mm.
all the energy healing, the spiritual work, it doesn't mean that when people don't do it all, or then they then don't do it at all, that something bad will happen to them. Not at all. That's, I
Yeah,
think, about, I believe that cancer and cancer recovery is about finding the self love in
yeah,
whatever shape or form is important for that person.
yeah,
That's yeah, that's why I don't believe in following the rules
yeah.
100%, but following the rules that you think are good for you.
Mm. And just further on your recovery there, how did addressing emotional and spiritual well-being impact your recovery?
So So I think that was a great source of hope. I did the
Mm,
spiritual healing and energy healing throughout the whole time, and I think the most impactful, it was during the chemotherapy and
mm,
before, when I didn't know what I was facing, how I would feel, and it was down to the Silva method and one of the instructor who actually told me it is not about opting in, opting out, the treatment, about mind programming, that the treatment will be really effective on the cancer cells, but just visualizing all the
mhm,
time that it has no impact on your life. And don't get me wrong, I had side effects,
mm,
but I always was focusing on that time beyond that. So I was pushing myself to go for walks, to go running, maybe not the first 4 or 5 days, but the fifth day, sixth day, and I knew that when I run, even if it's 1 kilometer, I'm recovering. because I
Mm.
feel better. And that will be different for different person. For different person, it might be a different activity. But just to focus on how I want to feel once I'm recovered from each cycle, instead of making that problem bigger and focusing on the side effects, because when we what we focus on
Mm.
multiplies.
Yeah.
So that was a strategy that really greatly helped me to navigate through the difficult time, and also then prepare for the operation, because it was my
Mm.
first operation, and it was 11 hours operation as well. So it was a big thing.
Mm.
And these practices helped me to just use my mind to focus on how I want the outcome to be rather than the fear. So
Mm.
it was about flipping the fear into what I want to happen, and shifting the mindset from the problem to solutions.
Mm. Thank you for sharing those strategies. I'm sure there's a lot of people out there, that will take that on for future if there needs to be surgery or chemotherapy for them. But yeah, as you said, focusing on the positive side, on the outcome rather than the fear just does change a lot in the mindset, which we know the mind and body are connected. So, Veronica, what do you believe is the biggest misconception people have about breast cancer healing?
I think it's about, so I believe that breast cancer or any other kind of cancer is not just about the medicine, but
Mm.
it is about healing our whole selves. It is about finding the way back to our soul and back to the love, and unconditional love that
Mm.
we lost somewhere on the way and we need to find.
Mm. And just on that, your journey inspired you to become a coach and a therapist. What does it mean to you now to walk along other women facing breast cancer?
So it is my life mission, and
Mm.
I have to say that every time, because the journey kind of never ends. It
Mm.
almost like the journey sometimes starts when you recover and when you're free of cancer, because suddenly all the hospital care ends or reduces, and you there out there on your own with other people expecting that you are back to normal, but
Mm.
there's no such a thing. You never back to normal. You transition to a different version of yourself. And I think that's also where a lot of confusion is about, and misconception about the journey beyond. um,
Mm.
so I see that point as really important to help the women to transition to that
Mm.
point, as it was difficult to for me. But what I discovered was that we can actually choose the version of ourselves that we want to be, but we have to embrace a lot of healing with regards to the trauma, because not only some traumas can build up in our energetic bodies and cause imbalance in our bodies, but
Mm.
also the cancer journey is trauma itself that needs to be healed beyond that. So I think, like, every time I work with women with breast cancer, it's kind of healing part of myself as well at the same time. So
Mm.
it's still a journey that I take together
Yeah.
with my clients and with all the women I work with.
Mm. That's a lovely story. So it's a win-win for all. You get something, they get something, and you're both healing together. So just on that, can you share a story of a client or a participant in one of your healing circles, and how those circles show the power of community and compassion?
Yes, of course. So for example, what I found that, so ladies are just they usually get on with the medical journey
Mm.
and forget to look at to review their life. And when we do the circle, it is not only about the time that they can spend with me, and then I can guide them, and we look at the specific problems that they might have or the challenges that they are facing. Um, in more detail, and I can guide them with specific strategies that that they can use, but also they can interact between themselves, and it's a lot of coming just from the discussion between all the ladies that are going through the journey. And because I have both the breast cancer patients and survivors coming to the circles, which also helps to get the different views of what different people were doing and how they move forward from the journey.
Mm. So how has this work changed you, not just professionally, but personally?
I think I would say I feel very connected
Mm.
to the divine energy, to the universe, however you want to call it, to the higher self, and I feel more at peace. I
Mm.
feel like that this work which I'm doing, is aligned
Mm.
with my mission and what I'm supposed to do on this planet.
Mm. It sounds very soulful what you're explaining to us, what you do. It sounds very soulful, all the work you're doing in healing, helping others out there. So, for listeners who want to feel more empowered about their health, what are some small practical steps they can take today for prevention and wellness?
So for prevention, and that's thank you for bringing the topic up, because I
Mm.
think that's something I'm really passionate about, because there were a lot of things that I didn't know before I was diagnosed about the breast cancer prevention. Because what we hear is just do your self checks and kind of hope for the best, and that's not sufficient. And also, it is. Many women even don't self-check, not that because they don't care about themselves, but because we kind of don't know what is supposed to be there and
Mm.
what's not. So it's almost like we feel like if we had the x-ray vision, it would be much easier, but it is difficult to identify and find things that when you're looking for something, you don't know what is it. So of course, when you self-check regularly, then you get to know your breasts, and that definitely helps. But it is also about looking how we live and the lifestyle. So there
Mm.
are charities like Breast Cancer UK. They now really promote this toxin-free world. So there is a lot of cosmetic products that still contain a lot of parabens and endocrine disruptors. Endocrine disruptors mimic the estrogen and the hormones, and that's where the hormonal imbalance can lead to increased risk of developing breast cancer. So there are simple things like app that's called Think Dirty, or Yuka app. And these two apps are for free. You can download it and you can scan any product when you're buying it or at home, and you will see whether there are any endocrine disruptors or any carcinogens in it. And
Mm.
this charity pushes really through petitions and other activities on manufacturers so that they stop using these ingredients. So I believe, that the time will come when we don't have to be as cautious. But for
Mm.
now, it's important to see what you're buying. And that doesn't mean you have to throw everything away and
Yeah.
buy everything new. But as you use up something, try to find a different alternative for that
Mm.
product in a version that doesn't have any endocrine disruptors and any carcinogens in it. And
Mm.
then it's about lifestyle, diet, as now the all the research show that ultra processed food increased risk of
Yeah.
developing risk of any cancers,
Mm.
because it's a malnutrition. And sometimes some of the food that we eat, we almost need additional nutrients to process the food,
Mm.
and our body then takes it from the nutrients that stores. So not only that, food doesn't give us anything, it actually takes away our our nutrients that we stored in our body. So they call them anti-nutrients. But to minimize ultra processed food, to really read labels and look at, because sometimes even products that are labeled as healthy, you will see is a lot of refined sugar in it, or some, if you can't even pronounce the thing that it's in the ingredient list, then there's likelihood it's ultra processed. So it doesn't mean you can't eat it at all, but just minimize it and boost the diet with some anti-cancer vegetable fruit, for example, a vegetable like broccoli, cauliflower, and leafy greens are really, really good for even like the process and the management of the hormones in the body.
Yeah. Well, thank you for sharing that advice, and also advising the listeners of some resources out there that they can tap into that are free. I'm sure there'll be a few looking those up. So, Veronika, can you tell us about your up-and-coming book, The Diary of a Soul Reborn? What do you hope women take away from it?
So my hope is that because the book is about my story, and I'm hoping that they will get inspired and empowered to take their healing journeys into their own hands. Because what we feel when we are diagnosed with cancer is that everything is outside of our control. And in some extent, that's true, but there is so much more we can do throughout the journey to make us feel better, because we can't change the situation we are in, but we can change how it will unfold going forward. And so I'm hoping that they will get inspired and empowered to take their journeys into their own hands.
I'm sure they will, and I'm sure our listeners will be waiting for the book to be released. And Veronika, can you share what your vision behind your healing circles and online programs have created?
So I think when I was going through the journey, the things I was missing the most, because I had a lot of support. I could get counseling, all sort of therapies, but I felt like that they all focused on the problem and made the problem bigger. So I had the whole team of professionals focusing on my illness. I had my loved ones worried about me, and it was me who could start focusing on what I want to achieve and how I want my journey to unfold. And so that's inspired me to create the healing circles, because it's not about talking about side effects. It's about the practical strategies of how to overcome or how to move forward from the treatment or during the treatment. It is about focusing on what we want rather than what we don't want. And that's why I created the healing circles, inspired actually by groups that I joined as part of the Silva method community. They weren't cancer focused, but they were sessions or bi-weekly sessions with the instructors, where we could discuss, how to put these techniques into practice. So that's essentially what inspired me to create my healing circles for breast cancer audience and patients and survivors, so that we can focus on healing rather than on the illness.
It sounds like wonderful circles and programs that you provide there. So, Veronika, during your treatment, did you have a mantra or affirmation that kept you going through it?
Yeah, so I think I went through different phases, and I didn't have one specific mantra. I think my mantra was focus on healing, not on the illness.
Yeah.
So it was whatever I was doing, focusing really on what I want. But the affirmations that came up throughout some spiritual healing were all about self-worth, deserving, self-love.
Yeah.
So always, maybe if there was something I could share with the listeners, if you're going through this difficult journey, then ask yourself every day, how can I love myself more every day? And it can be a single little step, just maybe just to relax a little bit more, or just to treat yourself to something nice, or
Mm,
just spend time in nature. They can be little things, but do
mm.
it as a daily practice.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Be kind to yourself and don't beat yourself up because you're the only one that can get yourself through the recovery. And Veronika, where can our listeners connect with you, join your healing circles, or learn more about your book and programs?
So if you go to my website, www.lotus-journey.com. Also, if you do the same address /links, then there is like a link tree of things, a link to healing circles, link to book pre-order, and also some free resources for breast cancer patients as well.
Fantastic. I'm sure there'll be a few listeners looking you up, definitely. And for the woman listening right now who has just been diagnosed and feels terrified, what's the one message you want her to hear?
So one message is to find ways how to focus on healing. I know I mentioned it before, but it's the key mantra
Mm,
of the whole journey. And how to always, because that doesn't mean focusing on healing doesn't mean being positive all the time.
mm,
It definitely allows you to feel what you feel, but always almost recenter and refocus. So I think the right word is to always refocus on healing
mm,
rather than on the illness. So allow yourself to process all emotions, whether that's anger, hatred, sadness, grief, whatever that might be. Allow it to flow through you, but always refocus to healing and to loving yourself. And that's one way of using to actually do that. Just imagine yourself sitting in like a violet flame that transmutes the negative energy and the negative emotions into love, and
mm,
then you can see it even changing to a beautiful pink color. So that's a single strategy I would like to share, and hopefully it will help.
Wonderful. Thank you, Veronika, for sharing that advice and your wisdom with us. And also thank you for sharing your journey with such courage and grace. You've reminded us that even in the hardest seasons, healing is possible, and that sometimes the greatest rebirth comes after the deepest challenge. So thank you, Veronika.
Thank you for having me. It was a pleasure to be here.
No, you're welcome. And to everyone listening, whether you're walking through cancer, caring for a loved one, or simply wanting to live a life more purposeful and healthy, remember this: you are not powerless. You can choose joy, you can choose healing, and you can choose to thrive. This is Nicki Dennis with Positive Vibes. Until next time, stay strong, stay hopeful, and keep your soul shining bright. Sending you all love and positive vibes. Bye for now.